first of all, to congratulate the PMOI and, of course, Madam Rajavi on their long-awaited, well-deserved and historic victory in the US courts last week. As we all know, there's now a 4-month deadline during which the Secretary of State must respond. I think this decision is extremely important because I think the label of terrorist organisation provided, as you said, Struan, cover for those who launched murderous attacks on Camp Ashraf. And I think the words of Madam Rajavi are very pertinent when she said that maintaining a terrorist designation on the PMOI is absolutely illegitimate and unlawful. And I think what we need to look at is the democratic platform that was presented by Madam Rajavi in this House just over 10 years ago. And we endorse all of the pillars of that democratic society that we adhere to, such as equal rights for men and women, rights for minorities, abolition of the death penalty, the halt of nuclear proliferation, individual freedoms, the separation of church and state, and, of course, the ballot box as the final arbiter of all legitimacy. And we see the kind of pressures that the residents have endured for many years. And really, I suppose, it makes me want to just hang my head in shame when I see what's happening there. And we seem to be hamstrung by what's happening. And despite the fact, as you said, Struan, that 220 MEPs have signed a letter endorsing all of what you've said, and I won't repeat it because I couldn't say it as well as you've said, or as clearly, or as succinctly. But I agree with everything you've said. Despite the fact that 220 MEPs have signed that letter, still no real action has been taken. And I genuinely believe that if Catherine Ashton and if Ban Ki-moon ignore that and do not respond to it, well then there is something wrong at the heart of what is happening here. So I won't take up your time except to say that I'm calling on Secretary of State Clinton, first of all, to take her decision immediately. We waited far too long for this. I think a positive decision from the Secretary of State would be a sign at least to all of those people who are suffering so incredibly in Camp Liberty. But equally, Catherine Ashton has a responsibility as High Representative, and so does Ban Ki-moon, to get the finger out and to get the UN working. How can we say these people are under the protection of the UN when we see that happening? As I said, we should hang our heads in shame. The UN has a responsibility to live up to its promises, and I think the call is going out from this Parliament and from all of the people who signed that letter that that must happen. We cannot wait any longer. It's gone beyond the point of waiting. People have suffered enough and more than enough in both Ashraf and Liberty, and we need to do something about it now. And all I can say to those people who are in Camp Liberty, if any of this is being relayed or any messages, is we have not forgotten about you. We know what is happening, and we will do all that we can to try and put an end to this.
15 years ago, a plot was started involving double standards to have better relations with a terrorist regime. Its democratic opponents were declared terrorists. So there was an absolute turnabout of the situation. And we can feel the negative impact not only for the relations between Iran and the European Union, but for the situation of democracy and progress of freedom all over the world. Because a similar things are happening also in relations to other dictatorships. So US and European Union's approach to Iran has damaged very much their own credibility, their real, genuine support for democratic initiatives and progress. Now, happily, we can see the light at the end of 15-year-long tunnel. So we can celebrate, in a way, the victory of the rule of law and justice over realpolitik, but it's still not over. And I think the decisive here will be the attitude of the EU member states, because we know that not one refugee has been accepted, despite even official suggestions by Baroness Ashton to take them. Nothing has happened. And often we can hear the excuses by our ministers of interior that yes, despite the decisions of the European Court, they are still on the terrorist list in America, which is ironic. We know that many European institutions and member states are eager to demonstrate their independence from the United States in political and economic matters. But here we can see for years, one can say, contempt of the highest legal body of the European Union, preferring to Luxembourg court verdict the political approach of the US authorities. Now this period is coming to its end, and it's very important. But we need to be prepared, because the situation is extremely dramatic. Time is running out. And for the UN, which has itself insisted upon registration of all these people, more than 3,000 of them.
I think that you heard everything that has been, that is more important on this issue. I think it is really a landmark, this period of 4 months settled by the court for the State Department for reaching a decision, because the last of the instruments that they decided to use was exactly not to make a decision, so they could not be challenged, which is really a catch-22 type of situation. And they would not take a decision, well, because they know they have nothing, rigorously nothing to present to sustain their decision. They have been, from the very start, only basing themselves on the propaganda material that is supplied by the secret services of the Iranian regime, and absolutely nothing else. And I would just like at this stage to remind 3 facts that should all of us think very much on what type of people do we have in the United States, and really in Europe it's not so different, taking care of our diplomacies. Their logic was and is very simple, and actually has been the same from 1980. Well, they couldn't care less about the fight against terrorism. Let's be very clear. They could not care less. They are there in the business, in the foreign affairs business, and either for reasonable and legitimate reasons, or, in the case of Iran, for illegitimate reasons, because they want to appease Iran. Only for this reason, they will classify the opposition of Iran as a terrorist organization for no other reason whatsoever. And they showed it from the start in '97. But they went on doing this. These people, they are the main responsible for the fact that basically, of course, the Iranian people, but the neighboring countries and the whole world at large have been victims of terrorism, because obviously terrorism does not come from nowhere. No, it does come from states that want to influence others and want to terrorize. They terrorize their own people, and then they want to terrorize their neighbors, and they want to terrorize the international community through this type of groups. So one of the times I was in Iraq, actually one of the times in 2008, was in an official capacity by the Budget Control Committee, to see what was going on with the millions of euros that were given to Iraq. And, well, courtesy to WikiLeaks, I just found out some months ago what really happened. And I have to confess I did not fully understand when I was there in this conference. The European Union ambassador plotted to put all the Iraqis out of the room when I would be present, to be sure that I would not be able to know nothing of what they did. And it's public now via WikiLeaks. This shows how our European Union is really concerned with knowing what's going on with the millions going to Iraq, because this is obviously a tremendous scandal. And so this is the basis on what our Iranian friends are being tortured day by day in this so-called Camp Liberty. And this is outrageous. And we shall never stop denouncing this. Whatever comes, whatever they will do, whatever they will threat, we shall never stop saying the truth.
Add my voice to those who congratulate PMI to this tremendous victory. It's really not just seen, it's in reality. It's a great victory, and I would like to especially congratulate Madam Rajavi, whose courage and effort is tremendous in this field, and I admire her resilience on the issue. So, as far as background, yes, we are speaking again and again on this terrible situation concerning the liberty, what is just paradoxically known as liberty camp. It's really a prison. Other places where human rights are violated, where violence against women is on the agenda of day. So really, human rights should be taken into account and should be watched all over the world. But the good news for at the end. It was really very encouraging to listen all of you, because it shows that even inside this house there is a group of people whose effort is steady, whose effort is not diminishing, and who decided not to give up. I know that people in Camp Ashraf cannot give up. It's a different situation. And our message for them is today just to repeat that we will not give up as well. Thank you.
Indeed, we all are welcoming and enjoying the victory of justice. What is next? What should be the next goals? I think there are two moments. One is a possible political step so it would be worthy to really think and maybe to decide about such an appeal to Hillary Clinton. Of course, we appealed several times already, and now it would be the last appeal. Do it. Do it.